You don't want people ever to taste something and say, oh, nutmeg. Well, that's very good.
Okay, so let's talk about nulls real fast. I brought in this scene into After Effects. Right now, the artboard, it's a Photoshop file. The artboard is too big for the composition, so we need to scale that down. It's a generic room with different props in it, and what we want to do is we want to make the blinds go up and down. So I'm gonna introduce nulls and how to use them to like resize things, position things, and then also how to use it as a null camera. And then we're gonna talk about masks too to get this all working. I already went through the file and I parented everything that needs to be parented. If we look at my hierarchy here, I've got, this should be here. So I've got like the blinds are parented to the windows, and then the windows are parented to the room, so on and so forth. So right now I don't have parents on the bottom or top bar, but we'll get there. So nulls, you can think of as like a ghost, right? It's like an annoying asshole ghost that lives in your apartment in this situation, and he moves furniture around, but you can't see him. Is the best metaphor I can come up with. So nulls have position, they have scale, and they do not have opacity. We can use that to our advantage because what we can do is we can use them as like a kind of pseudo way of grouping things. And if we want things to move individually on their own, we can parent them to a null and then have the items individually keyframed and then also move as a unit with the null. So let's talk about what that means. Also, I think Motion 2 is installed on a lot of your computers. If you open it up, just drag it and make it a new window. It's really, really handy for placing nulls, but I'll show you how to do it without that plugin as well. Let's start with sizing this thing down so it fits inside my 1920 by 1080 comp. We're going to take everything that doesn't have a parent which is these four. And using the plugin, if we hit this null button right here, it parents them all to this null. And it takes their center anchor point and kind of combines it to find like a happy medium point. If we don't have that plugin, what I can do is I can right click, go to new, null object, and it places one dead in the center, which is also really, really helpful. And then I have to go through, select everything I want to parent. And we understand parenting, right? Kinda. Do I have to sing the song again? No. Yeah, you know, the tree on the branch and the branch and the woods and the woods on the earth. Yada, yada, yada. So now I have everything parented to this ghost object. And if I move the ghost object around, everything moves with it, which is super convenient. And I'm just gonna name this like scene scalar. And if I scale down this null, everything scales down as well. And this lets me set up like a temporary workflow so I can kind of just position everything exactly where I want it. Now everything's kind of in place. I like it being this scale. And I have two options. I can either leave this null in my scene. If I want to like set it up as a camera later on, I can. Or if I just want everything to go back to the way it was, but keep the scale, the new size, I can just delete it. So if we look more in depth at that, like let's look at room right now. Room is parented to the null, and the room is scaled at 100%, so it's normal size. But since the null is scaled down to 72%, it gets smaller. But if we delete this null, it applies that scale to each individual object on its own. So it's a really easy way for you to uniformly move and scale things. Let's say I want to have my blinds all move in unison. But then I also want my scene to move. So I want to do like a pan on my scene or something like that. And we'll call this blinds right controller. I don't know, whatever. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a new null. And we'll call this one scene camera mover. And again, I'm going to take all of my not parented things, including my new null that I just made, and I'm going to parent those to the scene mover. So now, let's say I want to bring these blinds down and animate that. Over the course of a second. So down position, option P. And then up position, let's drop a keyframe. And move that up. So if we RAM preview it, this is what it looks like. But we want to add a pan too. And maybe a scale in or something. Yeah, let's start with a pan. And then do a scale. The screen is so tiny. And let's say over the course of time, we wanted to scale to like 105% or something. Let's make that fit. So we'll type that in. And then position, we want it to start to the left and we want it to move to the right. So we're gonna have to do that. So now if we play this, it looks like that. So the blinds are still able to fall down, and now we're able to pan as if it were a camera and scale in, like truck in at the same time. Yeah, Destiny. Yeah, so if we render this, that would be black. And I did that intentionally because I want to show you how to fix it, right? So what she's saying is now we have this like alpha layer because when we move the position, it runs off of the artboard. And how do we fix that? Good question, Destiny, 2 points. Normally what we would do is we would scale it up, right? And just make it bigger so it has more room to pan. But we can't do that because we already have scale keyframes that are doing like a push in, truck in kind of thing. What we're gonna do, you guessed it, we're gonna make another null. New, null object, put it right in the center. And we're gonna rename this one to scene scalar. And since everything is parented already to the camera mover, we can just parent the camera mover to the scene scalar and increase the scalar to like there, so it has room to slide off, and it works. So just to clarify, we've got the blinds, which are parented to the blind controller, which is a null. Then that null is parented to the scene mover, and the scene mover is parented to the scene scalar. So we've essentially stacked our nulls up. Also, one last thing about nulls. where you are on the timeline matters when you place a null or when you parent an object even. So like it drops off wherever your scrub cursor is. So if I deleted these here, it would take their current values and apply them to everything else in this position in time. But if I do it like at the end, like here, it'll be there. So that can be like really, really useful when you get to more advanced stuff. You can use that to your advantage. Like you can, like let's say you want like a speedometer or something, or odometer, I think that's the right word. What you can do is you can parent it to a null. Like let's say you have like 10 numbers that tick up, right? You put everything in like the start position, and then you parent a null, or you put a position onto a null, and then you can like put a loop out expression onto that position, so it just keeps going and going and going. And you can parent everything to that null one at a time. So like you parent the 1, and then you scrub forward in time till the 1 gets to the resting place, and then you parent the 2, and then you scrub forward in time, and then you parent the 3, and that makes it like tick up and everything moves uniformly. So you can kind of twist that to your advantage, which is a kind of a crazier, harder technique, but